What's up guys, FPV here, and today we are continuing the build with the Machineworks Raging Droner. And if you missed the first part and you want to go ahead and follow along, I'll leave a link down below to the first part, but this is the second part where we're pretty much up to setting up the flight controller, wiring it all up, and getting that done. So some things that we're actually going to be using in this build, this part, is we're going to be using the receiver, which we're going to go ahead and do that first. And I already kind of wired up the wires on there, and I put them really short. I originally was going to go, like in the first part I said I was going to go ahead and stack it directly to this flight controller, but I don't have any pin headers that can fit this thing, because it uses actually a different pin header than this size, so they're actually not identical. I'm not sure why they went ahead and did that. But what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in, and then we're going to go ahead and start soldering everything together. This is a TBS Crossfire Nano receiver, and then we're also going to be wiring up TBS Evo as well. And then if we get to it, hopefully, we also will have Foxy or Predator as well. So let's go ahead and zoom in, and we can go ahead and start soldering up this flight controller. All right, went ahead and zoomed in on the flight controller, and I was pointing out earlier about the flight controller itself. Here we have our pins where we're going to solder to with the Crossfire receiver. These top ones you can actually use an XM Plus or a RXSR receiver for FreeSky because it has the S-Bus pad on there. This one has the ground 5 volt and then RX and a TX pad. So we can go ahead and use these right here. But it looks like they meant to go ahead and do it to the back because you can kind of see the little outline for a receiver here. But if I do it on the back, and since I can't use the pin headers, it's actually going to stick out, and it's going to go ahead and be too tall, and it's going to start touching the wiring and stuff on the ESC. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we have to flip it over to where it's the right side up, and then go ahead and solder it this way. So we can go ahead and get the receiver, and this is the receiver right here, and we can go ahead and solder this thing up. Now it's really easy. On the back side it says ground positive, then I think it's RX and then TX. Let me make sure, yep. And then this one's our transmit and receive pin anyway, so we can just go ahead and go straight across, and then we should be good to go. But we're going to go ahead and reverse it, so some of these are going to go kind of backwards since this is going to be actually on this side, like so. So I'm actually going to flip it around, like that, if that makes sense. So, and let's see here. So now I know I'm going to mount this into the quad this way because the 401 header is in the back. And we want to make sure that this is actually going to be the right way. So I'm going to go that way, and then we're going to kind of bring up the pin, bring the wires over here, and then we'll tuck them in to make them hopefully nice. This on top of the flight controller is light enough to where it should not cause any gyro issues or anything like that. So let me go ahead and get this in here. Get my soldering iron out. Yeah, we're good. So that's all done. And then what we're going to go ahead and do is get our... This is our harness for our Evo. So let's go ahead and get that trimmed up and everything. So let me go ahead and trim this thing up, and then we'll show you how to hook this up. And we're going to get full... We're actually going to use the OSD to the Evo instead of using this one. Alright, before we go ahead and move on to the next step, we're actually going to be using the OSD from the Evo. I totally forgot I was even doing that. This is going along with my build like I normally would with Betaflight. But what we have to go ahead and do is we have to actually pre-tin this connector on the Crossfire and along with this one too, because these are actually going to get connected to the Crossfire receiver itself so we can communicate with it and do all our like scripts and change settings and stuff like that in the OSD. So let's go ahead and pre-tin these real quick. Where's my solder? I actually did change my tip. And it's still kind of... This is probably the tip I should be using the entire time. It's a pointy tip. It's better than a wedge tip. But I like using the wedge tip for like wiring ESCs and stuff, so that's pretty much why I always use it. And I kind of just made it work. But since I got that on there, what I'm going to do is, we don't need so much wire on this harness. So I'm going to actually kind of go like right there with it. Kind of cut that much off. Not too much. Have some. It's better to have some extra than it is to have too little. Then you're having to extend the wire. So I'm kind of just eyeballing it. I did not really measure it. I just kind of figure it's going to go on top of the, by the canopy is where this is going to go. So I want to give it enough room to where I have play. So I'm going to go ahead and strip that one. And that one too. And we'll pre-tin those up. Furthest away, well, let me pull this all up here. The furthest away to the left, since I'm facing mine upside down, will go to the leftmost pad on the crossfire. And my helping hands, because I'm not getting a really good. This is moving on me. Yeah, I never still found my wire cutters I got from Quad Box. Well, I have the ones I just got, but they're kind of annoying to use because they're kind of bulky. Come on. All right. That's really crappy. I can get it better. It's really hard doing this with the camera. So a lot of people get on to me about my soldering sucks, but a lot of times I have to go back after I do the video and redo it because I just can't see that well. I did get a new camera stand to where you guys have her kind of farther up where I can adjust it. So it just kind of helped me where I can get kind of closer, where my head can get really in there. But it's still not as good as me just being able to get real close, since I do wear glasses. Oh, that sucked. So much difficulty. It really is. Just for two little soldering pads. There we go. They're good now. So now I can go ahead and heat shrink this up, and then we can go ahead and continue with the video. Alright, so I went ahead and got everything connected, and pretty much what I did here, just to show you guys for the Evo. Now the Evo actually hooks up to this really weird. You actually have two wires that will come off of this and get connected to the crossfire receiver, which I went ahead and did that, and I actually used some Captain tape to go around it so that I can see the button and everything when I want to go ahead and bind the receiver. And then I also did, it does actually on the pigtail for the Evo, it also actually has already a harness for the camera too. I just had to move some of the wires around because they were wrong, and I was just able to lift the little tabs here and be able to lift them up. And so then we can just go ahead and connect them to the camera. Now, what we're going to do now is go ahead and put this flight controller onto the actual frame. So let me go ahead and zoom out, and then we can go ahead and finish up the build. All right, we zoomed out, and a couple of things before we get to me just putting this on real quick. You'll see that I actually already put the capacitor on here. And what I did is I actually just took the capacitor, and I kind of just took this clamp off, the little popped bottom, put the leads through there, soldered it to the XT60, slid this back up, and then took some electrical tape, wrapped it around it so it protects it and also keeps it nice and safe in between the wiring. What would probably really would benefited in this frame was using one of those capacitor wafers they sell at RacedayQuads. I might leave a link to that down below. And pretty much it solders right to your XC60, and then you can put your capacitor right there, and then you can, and it's like 3D printed as well. You can have little 3D prints, and it works and looks really nice. But this works as well on this build because it's just so tight back here. I could not get a capacitor unless I ran some wiring somewhere and then tucked it somewhere. It's better to have your capacitor as close to the source of the noise as possible, especially on a 401 ESC. So you want to go ahead and put that as close to that battery pad as you want. On this, since I couldn't do that, the next best thing will probably be right here on the battery lead from the battery going to it. That's the best I can do. But so let's go ahead, and I also did install the camera already, just 2 screws, one there on the other side, and screw them on there together. And then that's pretty much it. So let's go ahead and put this flight controller on here. It's kind of be kind of a pain in the butt to get in there since this build is kind of tight. It's one of the tighter builds. It's not as tight as building a smaller quad, but it is pretty tight. Actually, I need to get that header in there, don't I? So let me see if I can wiggle my fingers in there. Probably need like a pair of needles, pliers, or something to probably pull it out. I also need to make sure which way the pins are facing on the flight controller. So the pins are facing up, and these are facing down. So I need to twist that around too. Twist that around like so. Like that. And then I might have to do this off camera real quick. I just need to get this close to me so I can pop this connector in there. If I hold the cable with the pliers and then kind of guide in the 4-in-1 header. Yeah, this frame definitely uses a, I don't think, I mean, I guess you could use really, they do sell some really skinny ESCs now, individual ESCs, but this is probably really meant for a 4-in-1, this frame. Just because of how it's designed. Alright, so I plugged that in. We are good. So that's plugged in. And then we can kind of just guide this up. Well, I just unplugged it by accident. Alright, it's plugged in. And then we'll put it over the screws. Kind of get this lined up. Come on, slide down. These gummies on this what's it call it? On this flight controller, kind of stiff. I couldn't say stiff. They're kind of like tight around the screws, which is not bad. I don't have unnecessary vibration, you know. But you see how tight they are? Like they're like pushing up. Alright, I got the flight controller mounted, and I put some screws on here. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to route this wire, the antenna, through the back. And I know you're supposed to go ahead and use it to where it is actually like this way, like that. Like either flat or up and down, vertical or horizontal in that type of direction. But since this is a racing quad, I'm not doing a long range. Really, range is not going to be an issue. So I can go ahead and pretty much mount these any way I really want to. So I'm going to go ahead and do it like the FreeSky way and do a V right through the actual ports for the antennas. And then use these antenna tubes that they have included as well and put those in the back. So let me go ahead and do that real quick because it looks like it's going to be a pain in the butt to route those wires through there, and then I'll be right back. Alrighty, I'm back, and I got the wiring in there. Actually, it didn't come with any of these stoppers on the ends, so I had to find one in my bin, and I'm actually missing one, so I'll have to probably 3D print maybe 3D print both of them, and they'll match. But moving on, went ahead and connected the camera right here. I also did use some VHB. It's like double-sided tape. and it's sticky at first, and then when you let it set for like a few hours, it actually gets really sticky. So you don't have to really use a zip tie. It's really good for receivers, so they can just put it there, let it sit for a couple hours, and then it should be good. It shouldn't really move, shouldn't fall off. It's really like jelly. It's kind of like gel. It's weird, but it's not. It feels like it's losing its stickiness each time you try to use it, but then like, you let it set for a little bit, it like really bonds, and it really sets pretty good. So got that onto the receiver already. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is cut my wiring for the flight controller. And like I said, we're going to go ahead and solder this thing to these pads right here. And this is going to allow me to shut off the VTX when I want to. So if I'm at a race and I crash, I can go ahead and shut the VTX off and not have to worry about it overheating. So that's what we're going to go ahead and do. So I'm pretty much just eyeballing it here. I know my VTX is going to mount underneath the canopy. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of cut enough off. It's better to have it too long than having it too short. There, and shoot this one too. Alright. I think I actually messed up that wire. Yeah, I did. Let me cut that off. That's better. Twist them up. And then we can go ahead and solder these little wires together. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom in too so you guys can see. Better? Now this actually wants to not be stuck together. Okay. Okay. And then we'll just do the pads on the flight controller. So I was really using the Evo. Really makes the soldering to the flight controller like really simple. You just have to do the receiver and just the power to the VTX on this thing. So that's actually kind of cool. Sorry if my head is in the shot. I actually need to see. So I'm going to this one here. Sorry, can't get enough solder in there. The ball up on me. Oh, this soldering iron. I'll tell you. Try to get in here. Kind of tight. Probably should have did it when I was out of the flight control, like I said. Let's see if I can get this thing in there without burning anything down. That's good enough. Alright, got those two. Alright. And then we're going to go ahead and get these wires on there. So which one is ground? I can't read it. I really can't read it. Because the flux kind of like went in my way. Okay, So the first one is power, then ground. Yep. So, all right. Now I can read it. Sorry. Let's get this one. We'll bring it down here. Go ahead and twist these wires up a little bit, just so it looks a little neater. Because I hate having like wires just sticking out like that. Makes it look more professional when you kind of twist them a little bit, so they're not just dangling around. There we go. Okay. Wrap that around there. That's done. And the ground wire. And after we're done building this thing, we're gonna do a full setup on Betaflight. Betaflight 4.0, whatever the newest release is. We'll do that too. That'll be in a future video as well. Just check it out and see how it looks. It's looking good to me. Alrighty, so that's pretty much all done. Now, before we move on, just in case you aren't using an Evo, if you're using like a regular TBS Unify or whatever, you're going to pretty much connect it to these pads right here in the front, and then your camera will go to these pads over here. Not going to be specific, you can see right on there, it will say camera control. If you want to use camera control, which I don't use, I'll just hook up a plug to it and it'll be fine. And then, actually I already used this camera in another quad, and that's why it's burnt. It's from one of my other builds, and I burnt it. But I use this camera in another quad, so it's fine. But so I don't have to worry about setting up the OSD in it, removing it anyway. So that's pretty much it. And like I said before, with hooking up the receiver, you just use these pins here, or you can use an available S-Bus pad that's probably also on the side here somewhere. And then there's some extra UARTs as well. So this thing does have a lot of features on it. I'm not taking advantage of the OSD or anything. I'm going to use the Evo because I really want to try it out. I actually did see someone else flying with an Evo, and I actually thought the video quality looked a little better than on another one. So it was kind of weird. It looked more saturated, had more saturated colors in it. And it wasn't the camera. It was using the same exact camera I had. It was a Predator V3 he had. And he had an Evo on it. And I was like, man, this picture looks really weird. It looks really good. And it was an Evo. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it. But let's go ahead and see, that's all connected there. I don't think I need my soldering iron anymore, so I'm going to shut that thing off. And yeah, so see, that's that there. We can go ahead and this is actually going to get mounted to the canopy. So it's actually going to go underneath, kind of like so. So what I'm going to do is kind of get this thing in there, mounted where I want it. And actually, I'll probably put the antenna on just so we can hold it in place as well. So let's go ahead and do that now. And the reason I have this bent up is so I don't have to put the thing back in, because it's a pain in the ass to put those things in. Sorry about that. I had to just kind of clamp in the SMA in there. And then we got our axis antenna. So a stubby, which will screw right in the back. Don't have to worry about no mounts or nothing. See that? Then we can just take this sucker and hopefully screw him on. Once I can get this straight. For a second I had the wrong antenna. So like it's not screwing on. Come on. Get straight for me. It's being a pain in the butt today. So make sure this is pushed up against the mount here. There's one screw in there. It's not bent. There we go. I mean, I wasn't giving enough pressure. Okay, that's in there. Let that dangle out there. I'll leave that alone for now. We're gonna go ahead and put the canopy on. Put my camera where I kind of want it for now. Now there's a space here too if you want to put a receiver or even a VTX. I think a regular TBS Unify will probably fit in there, but remember it's not going to get a lot of airflow in there because it's going to be kind of tucked into the frame. The frame's going to be protecting it. So you might want to actually have it stick it out. This is probably better for a receiver, but since we have our receiver mounted directly to our flight controller, I didn't really see a point to have it there. Go in there. Come on, pushing. All right, now it's in. So that pivots on this. So it's kind of really make it easy accessible to get into your stuff. You kind of put it down and up. There's like screws that go on the side. Kind of cool. I like how they have it. And then what you do is you take it and it'll stretch and lock into the front. Like so. Once this part gets down. Pop that off real quick here. Now it's just really this final assembly, just getting everything back together when he built the frame originally. Let me get some screws here. What size do I need here? I think I need this one. There we go. And we can tighten it all down because I think we're pretty much done in there. Because I have to mount the Evo in there, which we'll do that. So make sure that's going to go through the actual standoff in the middle. Alright guys, we're back and it's pretty much fully assembled now. So I went ahead and put the VTX in there and I just zip tied it to that little pouch that was on top of the canopy. And it's almost touching the VTX on there, but it's not. So we're good. And yeah, so this is pretty much what it looks like for the final build. I'm going to go ahead and power it up and give you a weight, see how much this thing weighs. So let's go ahead and do that first. See what I did. See if I did a good job. Now, this is not the lightest racing frame in the world, but 298 grams, so it's under 300 grams for a racing frame, and that's without props and without a battery. So it's not a super light, not ultra light or nothing like that, but it should definitely be pretty interested in see how it does in the turns and does in a race. It's definitely going to be durable, I can tell you that. So let's go ahead and do a power up on it, but first, before we go ahead and do that, because I want to make sure that nothing fries when I connect the battery to it, is we're going to go ahead and hook up a voltmeter put it on continuity, and make sure when it touches, if there's a short, it does that. So it doesn't matter really which prongs you use. See, nothing. Not getting anything, which is great. All right. Nope, nothing. And so what we're going to do is put that to the side. Now this is where I want to go ahead and I use my smoke stopper, just in case, because there is 5-volt regulators. There's regulators that you really can't touch, really can't test with that. So let me go ahead and get a battery real quick. We'll plug this smoke stopper in, and I can leave a link down this below too. It's pretty cheap. I think I got this in a quad box, so it kind of comes in handy. And then we can go ahead and connect it. All right, no smoke, so we're good. So what we're going to do next is, next video probably up in this series, we'll be doing a full configurator on it, show you all my settings, what I use, and go real slow through it. So we will explain all the settings, what I change, why I change it. So it'll be probably a longer video, but I appreciate you guys watching, and just to let you know, I'll leave everything down in the video description for this build. If you want to go ahead and build it yourself, you're more than welcome to do that. All those links, hopefully all of those links, maybe not for this actual frame, will all be affiliate links. So they do help out the channel, they help out me, pretty much be able to buy more product and be able to support the channel. So if you guys found this video useful, go ahead and give it a like, subscribe to my channel if you found this video helpful, and I'll see you guys in a future video. Peace.